Even though it's 74 days away and Chaos Rising isn't out for another 2.5 weeks, the Pokemon Company has officially announced Pitch Black, our next English set. It releases on July 16th in Pokemon TCG Live, and like Perfect Order and Chaos Rising, will be another small main set, this time with just 84 cards before Secret Rares. As you saw from the pack arts, we're getting Mega Zeraora and Chandelure in addition to the previously announced Darkrai and Excadrill. This is interesting because the press release mentions that we're getting 6 total Megas in Pitch Black. If those are the only 4 coming in Japan's Abyssai later this month, then it means we're almost guaranteed to get both Mega Slowbro and Mega Delphox in Pitch Black. It would make sense. If the 30th anniversary set arrives in September, our next main set might not be until October. We will have to wait a couple months to know exactly what the release schedule is going to be for the rest of the year though, so stay tuned. I've already talked about Darkrai and Excadrill in previous videos, but I will briefly mention that Lycia's appeal suddenly becomes a potential partner for Darkrai. It only brings up basics, but it does confuse them, putting them in danger of getting Abysside. As for Excadrill, just play it with Metal Maker Metang, then quickly realize the new Metagross from Chaos Rising is better. And if you care, the 80 hit point Slowpoke will be a blister promo, while Zarude is the ETB promo. And because Pitch Black is out mid-month, pre-releases will begin on July 4th, with the 4 promos likely being revealed in a month. Okay, with all that boring stuff out of the way, let's get to the new cards. When I played with Tyrantrum and Aurorus from Perfect Order last month, it became apparent, like me after getting a call from a woman I spent a wonderful night with 6 years ago, that in a world ruled by Badoo, fossils were just too hard to get up reliably. Well, while it may be arriving a couple sets too late, Fossil Excavation Site is everything we could have ever asked for. Different than all the previous fossil accelerators, Fossil Excavation Site is essentially a buddy puffin for your antique fossils. By activating this stadium, you can immediately take any 2 items with antique in their name from your deck and put them directly onto your bench. There will be 7 potential targets once Pitch Black is out, and this one stadium essentially makes every Stage 2 fossil Pokemon playable. Before I continue, just remember that Colress is our best way to find a stadium since it also grabs an energy. He's much better than that stupid Petrol. But if you put a Colress in your discard pile, Kyurem becomes the bane of your existence, sniping everyone straight to hell. So be careful. Moving along, there's the new Relicanth, which people are weirdly excited about. For any energy, meaning it slots into any fossil deck, Relicanth does 10 base damage plus 30 more for each antique fossil on your bench. So after using Excavation Site once, it does 70 damage. This is the same as Solrock, KOing a Dreepy or Badoo or something weak. This basically makes Relicanth at least a 1-of in any fossil deck you want to play, giving you some early pressure. Alternatively, you could make a straight Relicanth deck. Use Excavation Site early, then something like Cornerstone Master Ogerpon later to activate Area 0, upping Relicanth's damage potential to 220. Again, there'll be 7 different antique fossils once Pitch Black is out. So if you're crazy or bored, this is an idea. The true highlight from this week's Pitch Black reveals is Bastiodon. I've had to reread its ability so many times because most other cards in 2026 suck, yet this is potentially insane. If Bastiodon is on your bench, your opponent's Pokemon with 2 or fewer energy attached can't deal damage. Like, what? We previously saw something similar with Walrein from Surging Sparks, but that was an attack, not an ability. Paired with Hammers and Handheld Fan, you can control their energy, potentially preventing them from ever attacking. Using Fossil Excavation Site, you can get 2 armor fossils down early. Unfortunately, the effect on this particular fossil is kinda useless. If it's in the active, all your Pokemon take 10 less damage from attacks. Yeah, that's more of a nothing burger than some buns getting filled with plant-based meat. Shieldon, however, is usable. For a metal and a colorless, it's guaranteed energy discard, meaning the old Relicanth can allow Bastiodon to copy it. But Pilot, I hear you say, what the hell is a bulwark? And don't the Bastiodon need to be on the bunch? Well, my smooth-footed favorite subscriber, I don't know what a bulwark is either. As for the bench part, if you touch your big toe, then your pinky toe, you have your solution. If they gust up a Bastiodon, just have another one on the bench. Problem solved. In addition to Crushing Hammer and Handy Fan, there's Enhanced Hammer for special energy, Perfect Order Turtonator to discard energy if it's hit, and Elgium to move their energy around with its attack. Obviously, the Pokemon Company's goal here was to give us a way to counter Dragapult. Phantom Dive only takes 2 energy, but Bastiodon requires them to have 3. This is better than Nighttime Mine because they can just bump the mine with their own stadium. Just be aware that Bastiodon's ability only prevents damage, not damage counters, so they can still spread 6 damage counters to the bench. Speaking of, Alakazam doesn't care about Bastiodon. Its attack places damage counters, not damage. And someone like Teal Masked Ogerpon can easily get 3 energy on itself, especially if Meganium is in play. As for Raging Bolt, while PDCGL will probably screw it up, provided you have 3 energy on the Angry Giraffe before attacking, Bellowing Thunder will go through, because it's only after the attack resolves that you discard the energy. Finally, you don't have to mess around with Fossil Excavation Site if you don't want to. Mega Delphox, Totsudieri EX, and Reuniclus all have ways to flash it into play, which is actually a problem. Because as excited as I am to have Bastiodon added to the game, it also means stall and control decks will get much stronger. They can just stick a Turtonator in the active, hammer you a few times, then play a Zerosic at the worst time, causing you to lose all resources. But if it means Dragapult players have to stress even a little bit more than normal, I'll accept my fate. The other Stage 2 fossil coming in Pitch Black is Rampardos EX. While the Cranidos is disappointing, the fossil ain't. If you put Skull Fossil up front and a Badoo hits into it, well, guess what? That Badoo just knocked itself out like that time I tried to lick my own freshly lotioned feet while standing. Before I talked about Rampardos, let me quickly remind you about Tyrantrum. With a Rocky Fighting Energy attached, it has 330 hit points on a single prizer. While Wreak Havoc isn't amazing, dealing just 160 for 2 energy, you can copy Tyrant's Get Angry to deal 20 damage for each damage counter on Tyrantrum. Why do I bring this up? Because Rampardos is a 330 hit point 2 prizer with an attack that does just 150 damage for 2 fighting. The added benefit is that next turn Rampardos does 150 extra damage. So if it survives, this thing's KOing everything if you drink enough Gatorade. Then we have its ability. If Rampardos is in the active, which you always want it to be, you can flip a coin. If heads, you discard an energy from their active. So it's basically a targeted Crushing Hammer every turn. I don't know if we can reliably make a Bastiodon Rampardos deck work with things like Handheld Fan and Crushing Hammer, but if it is feastable, then they just might never be able to attack. Unfortunately, despite my best efforts to fill them, Rampardos has a few gaping holes. Requiring a coin flip to discard energy is, of course, annoying. Repel or Boss's Orders breaks the effect of Rampaging Hammer, meaning you go back down to 150 damage next turn. And a Grass Weakness means you're destroyed by anything running Teal Masked Ogerpon. On the plus side, you can pair it with Lunatone, Solrock, and Barbaracle to provide early pressure while also drawing cards and accelerating energy. While it's unfortunate that Fighting Gong doesn't find any pieces of the Rampardos line, it still has access to Premium Power Pro to one-shot every Mega, provided you get that 150 damage boost. Overall, I'm whelmed by Rampardos. It's definitely playable, I'm just not sure I'd pick it over Tyrantrum or Lucario unless I'm building a more control-y type deck. Before wrapping things up, I will highlight some of the older fossil Pokemon helped out by Excavation Site. Don't cry, because the biggest one is Tiertuga. Most decks play items. For a single water, the turtle does 30 damage times the number of items in their discard pile. Evolve into Caracosta and utilize Relicanth, now you're dealing an additional 30 damage if their active is an evolution. And if they get shy about using their items, Zerosic and Airy can coax them out of their feet. Probably the funniest thing about Tiertuga is that while it's an I-block card, the Antique cover fossil it evolves from is an H-block card. As I pointed out in a short last month, there's a stupidly high chance we won't be able to use Tiertuga at all in Standard after our next rotation in March 2027. You probably already know about Cradilly because you're cool and watched my video last year. Get a bunch into play, affect them with 3 status conditions after always flipping heads, and this thing does 300 damage for a single grass. Just remember that Forest of Vitality isn't really useful here, as it only allows you to turn a Laleep into Cradilly right away, not the fossil into Laleep. Finally, Archeops. A card you probably didn't know existed. If it's in the active, you can choose to devolve any one of your opponent's Pokemon. Hopefully Dragapult and Greninja players don't realize this helps them, because I don't want to end up in that world. Next week, we'll learn about a few more of the 84 new Pitch Black cards, with the full set reveal a week later. So yes, we'll know the entirety of Pitch Black 2 months ahead of time. Make sure you're subscribed, because how else will you know which cards you'll immediately throw into your Bulwark drawer? Get it? Bulwark instead of Bulk? Never mind.